This is Todd Toback, and today we're going to talk about the one question that's going to help you negotiate with the seller to get them to lower their price, and a bunch of other questions that's going to help you earn monster spreads on your wholesale deals. Now, if you've not been to our website, go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. A lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is based on the motivated seller script, which I'm going to give to you for free. Now, this script has been used to lock up over 1,400 deals inside my organization and probably tens of thousands of my students across the country. So go ahead and download it. It's proven, it works. And if you've ever wondered what to say to a motivated seller, well, now you know. So go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script and download your copy today. All right, so let's talk about one of the biggest factors to success in negotiating a wholesale deal, and that is negotiating price, right? You have to talk to a motivated seller. You've got to negotiate with a motivated seller, and really this business does not work if you do not buy a property at a discount. Everything hinges on you getting a property below market value. A lot of newbies think that you can just lock up a property at any price and try to sell it and make a couple grand spread. Well, that's not what we teach on this podcast, right? My goal for you is to do big spreads, right? Big, fat, juicy wholesale deals. We're talking about 25, 35, 45, 55, even six-figure wholesale deals. And it is very, very, very possible. I got to tell you that if you want to be extremely profitable and be in that 1%, you must learn how to negotiate big spreads. So what's the difference between those who do it and those who say, you know what, I can't do this, not in my market, or I don't need to do big deals, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's the people who know how to do it. So today, I'm going to teach you using some of the techniques I've talked a lot about in my no limit selling system. Now, before I get into some of the actual techniques, I'm going to give you some ground rules to be successful. Number one, download the script. Go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. So that way you know where to start. The second thing, though, is that you got to generate leads, right? You must have leads coming in every single day. And the reason why is that most people who you talk to are not going to be motivated enough to do a deal with you, right? To give you a discount on a property, 30, 40, even 50%, sometimes even 60, below what the market value would be for a house, right? So you have to talk to a lot of people. You got to get to no's before you get to yes. I have many people who write into the podcast, Todd, how can I convince a seller to give me their price or to do business with me? And the answer is you don't, right? You have to get in front of the right people. Now, there is an art to what to say once you get in front of the right people, but I got to tell you that if you don't get in front of the right people, if you don't have enough leads coming in every single day, you're not going to find enough motivated sellers. So that's rule number one. And I'll do a whole nother podcast on leads because it is just so important. Number two is if you are not embarrassed about how much you are offering, you're offering too much. Okay, you should have a uneasy feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this potential deal because of what's about to come out of my mouth. So those are the ground rules. Number one, you got to generate leads. And number two is that if you're not embarrassed about how much you're offering or how much you're attempting to get the property under contract for, you're probably offering too much. Okay, so if you look at the script, hopefully you've downloaded it by now. One of my favorite questions is, right, you're talking to a seller, you're asking them why they want to sell. And one of my favorite questions is, Mr. Seller, if I could pay all cash and close quickly, what would be the best price that you'd consider if there are no commissions or no closing costs to pay? Okay, now you zip it. You got to stay quiet. Don't say a word. Now, seller is going to either A, give you a number, or B, not give you a number. And if they do give you a number, I'm going to have you skip forward here a few steps. I'm going to assume that the seller's not going to give you a number. So the most important thing, what I see, the big mistake is if a seller doesn't give a number, I see a lot of wholesalers instantly go back and then all of a sudden shoot the seller a number. And that number usually is not that good of a price for the wholesaler, right? They shoot at a number because the seller did not give a number. Now they feel like the seller is sophisticated. So then they give a number that's like, okay, on the edge of a wholesale deal. That's the wrong way to go. Okay. You need to be patient. You need to move slow. And my rule here is you do not move on from the price conversation until you've asked 5 different ways. Okay. How many? 5. Now, the first one is, Mr. Seller, if I could pay all cash and close quickly, what would be the best price that you would consider? That's on the script. That's the first one. And if they don't answer, then what you do is first you listen. The second part is you go, Mr. Seller, just give me your best guess, right? And now that's all about tone. Be friendly, be fair, be open, use a friendly term. You can also build some rapport at this point, right? Go back to that and come back, right? Then if they don't say that, that's number 2. You could say, just give me a ballpark and just listen. Now the conversation that they may throw the conversation back at you and say, you know what? I don't know, you're the expert, which is not true. They've probably gone to Redfin or Zillow and looked it up. But you could say, you know, I'd really have to dig deep here, but just to kind of see if we're in the same ballpark, I want to know if you had an idea. And then ask them, ballpark. Now, at this point, you know, if you've asked 3 times and they haven't given you a number, they're probably going to start holding, you know, it's probably true that they're going to hold this to their chest, right? So you're going to use a couple more techniques to try to get a number. The fourth is I would say, okay, have you taken a look at what the comparable sales in the area, what the neighboring houses have sold for? And usually this one works very good because you will hear a seller say, yeah, the one over here sold for 200. This sold for, you know, the one on the other side sold for 210, right? So they obviously know what things are going for. So I would say, okay, are you looking to get full market price, or are you willing to trade some equity for speed and convenience? You hear that question right there? So are you looking to get full retail value, or are you willing to trade some equity for some speed and convenience? Now you listen. They say, yeah, I'm willing to take a discount. Okay, what would that look like? So that's number 4. Okay, now if they don't answer at this point, you know, they are probably negotiating with you knowing that, you know, the old term, whoever mentions a number first loses, right? And that actually is, I hate to use the word loses, but you do want to talk less. I don't like to offer a number. But if you're feeling tension and a lot of resistance, then you're going to use this 5th question. And the 5th question actually is something that we use in the no limit selling system, kind of like a stealth mismatch. And what I like to do is throw out a number that is so ridiculously low that I get a reaction from them, right? So let's assume that for whatever reason, the market value of the house is 240. I would love to pick up this house, let's say for 120 to 130. There's probably a $20,000 or $30,000 wholesale fee there. But I really, you know, at the end of the day, I want to pick it up for 100. I might say, hey, Mr. Seller, I'm not sure if I could do this, but, you know, and where we're at. But what if I offered you, I don't know, you know, I don't know the condition of the house, but what if it was like $80,000? Is that something you'd even consider, or probably not? So now that's real low. I mean, I might even go as low as 50. So now the seller might say, oh no, there's no way I would take that. Well, you heard that now. So now you know the seller does have a number in mind, right? They got to have something. I could say, okay, so then what is that number? Well, I need at least 120 grand. Boom. Now you got a number, right? So you got to go really low. If you can't get that number on the 4th try, on the 5th try, really go low. Now, here's the key. It's all tone, right? Because if you're like, I'll give you $80,000, well, that's going to be confrontational. It's intimidating. The seller's going to say no, thank you, and hang up. So you want to appear like you are flexible, right? Or maybe you don't know all the information about the property, and so now the seller has to come help you. So I'll say, look, Mr. Seller, what if I could give you $80,000? Is that something you'd even consider, or probably not? That's something that I learned from one of my mentors. That was Peter Conti and David Finkel, right? And then you just listen, right? Because if you're friendly, they're not going to hang up on you usually, right? They're going to give you more information. And now let the games begin. Okay, so now they may say, hey, I'll take it. Great, sign it up. They're probably not. And so they'll say, I was really hoping to get 130. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something again that I learned from David Finkel and Peter. And that was the range technique. I don't talk about the range technique a little bit because, well, I don't use it often if I get a number from a seller. Excuse me. I don't use it often if I don't get a number from a seller, right? If you do get a number from a seller, okay, then comes the range technique. Now, if the seller says, the lowest I'd take is 130, I'm now going to come in and say, okay, so what I'm hearing is you take anywhere from $100,000 to $130,000. You see what I just did there? Seller says 130. I said, okay, so it looks like you're looking in the $100,000 to $130,000 range. So now I listen. The seller's going to do one of two things. Either A, they'll say, yeah, I might take 120. Boom, it worked. You see how that worked there? Or they're going to say, no, I'm only taking 130. So with a range technique, you have two strikes, okay? You want to try twice and twice only. And what I mean by twice only, if it doesn't work 2 times in a row, then stop. If it does work, keep going. Okay, so now the seller says, okay, maybe 120. So later on in the negotiation, I'd say, okay, so maybe you're looking at maybe something in the 110 to 120 range. You see what I did there, right? And so again, I use the range technique and I say it and then I zip it. I do not negotiate with myself. It is okay for there to be an awkward silence. Relish that. That means the seller is thinking about doing business with you. Now, let's assume for a second that there's some kind of standstill and you kind of feel the seller backing away. What I like to do is I'd say, hey, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to come together in price. And that's totally okay, by the way. If I'm not a fit, tell me no. We can still be friends and I won't, there won't be any awkwardness here. Let me ask you a question. If you don't do business with someone like me, what are you looking at as alternatives? And then zip it. Okay, I'll repeat that. Hey, Mr. Seller, if you don't do business with someone like me, what are you looking at for other alternatives? And then zip it. And now you're going to get them to sell themselves on doing business with you. Now they might say, you know what, I've got a realtor coming over here in 20 minutes, and he's probably going to list my house, and I'd rather go retail. Well, now you know, right? But do you see how I flush that question out? Because that's going to do one of two things. First is it may drive them towards you, or 2, it may drive them away from you. But let me give you something that is going to let you sleep at night. You cannot drive away a seller that was going to do business with you by doing something that I call the stealth mismatch, right? I talk a lot about this in the no limit selling system. By the way, everything I'm talking about here is right out of the no limit selling system. And again, it's a system that we use to talk to motivated sellers, to negotiate big spreads, to compress the timelines, right? To get those deals under contract faster, okay? And to eliminate the people who you don't want to talk to so that you could actually have fun talking to sellers every single day while making a ton of money, okay? By the way, if you have not purchased the system, you could probably, listen to the podcast and piece that all together. But if you haven't, if you want it in an organized fashion, in the way that we teach all of our sales reps, go to nolimitsalesystem.com, nolimitsalesystem.com, and check that out. But by you giving them another alternative, that's a stealth mismatch. Like, hey, listen, I'm not sure if we're a fit, and if you go another direction, that's totally okay. You cannot kill a deal by doing that, because if a seller is going to do that, they're going to do it. You're not going to be the one to drive them away. By you saying that, you're just flushing that out so that now you know, right? It just helps you get to the truth faster. All right. Next piece of information here, and this is going to take us full circle back to my initial podcast, is that let's assume for a second there's a standstill. You can't negotiate the deal you want. You asked 5 times. You used the range technique. Didn't work. They said, hey, you know what? Maybe we're going to list with the realtor. You got to be okay with walking away, right? You must be okay with walking away. How do you do that? By having a ton of leads. If you don't have leads, you're not going to want to walk away. You're going to want to hold on to your lead like it's your last morsel of food, right? And so if you don't have leads, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, please, I'm not, I don't want to let go of this deal. So you have to be able to walk away. The sellers are going to feel that, and if there's actually a chance you could do business, and they feel that, that's going to draw them, to do business with you. If not, then and if you're chasing them, it's going to be really, really, really tough. Let me talk about my last point here, and a little bit about ghosting and negotiating about yourself. So sometimes we'll negotiate with a seller over the phone, and maybe we're supposed to meet them for an appointment, or you're supposed to have a follow-up call, and they just ghost, meaning that they just stop returning your phone calls or your texts or your videos, whatever that is. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I went too low, and now they won't talk to me. And so what I've seen some people, they make a mistake, is they then call up the seller and start offering them like $20,000 more. And like, hey, by the way, I was looking at the price and I could probably offer you $20,000 more. That's a huge mistake, right? The seller now is going to see that, and they are going to run the other way because you are now chasing them. So understand that a seller may be ghosting you for a number of reasons, right? Maybe they're thinking about just listing with an agent, period, not because of the price. Maybe they're thinking about not moving. Maybe the situation that they have, you got to remember, these people are natural procrastinators. So whatever problem they had, right, has kind of flared up in this point so that now they felt like calling you. Do not expect that behavior to change, right? They're still going to procrastinate, and so kick the can down the road until they hit that point that says, hey, I've got to deal with that. So if someone ghosts you, yes, maybe you want to follow up, but you don't want to come up on price and start negotiating against yourself on price. The same goes when you're talking to a seller and maybe they don't respond right away, or they give you an awkward look. Give an awkward look, right? And just listen. Because I can tell you that sellers, more often than not, just sometimes need some time to digest. They're expecting to get $150,000 for a house, and now you're telling them that they're only going to get 80. At first, they're like, hey, that's a big, a big pill to swallow. But if you let it sit and you build rapport and they want to do business with you, give them a reason, right? Let them find a reason to do business with you, and then let the deal come to you. Okay, so I'm going to review here. Number one is if you want to negotiate monster spreads here, and if you just heard my audio go up, it's because my computer closed and I moved closer to the mic. But number one is leads, right? Don't be scared to, you got to have leads. You got to generate leads every single day. I've done another podcast about that, and you got to be consistent. You can cold call, you could do mailing, you could do pay-per-click advertising, you could go to novationleads.com. I'll do more podcasts on that, but you got to generate leads. And if you're not, you're going to be too scared to walk away, and you need that walk away power. Number two is if you're not embarrassed about how low your offer is, you're offering too much. 3 is you want to ask that power question, right? If I could pay all cash and close quickly, what would be the best price you'd consider if there are no real estate or costs or commissions to pay? You want to use, give me a best guess, ballparks. What are the comps in the area? What are they selling for? Are you expecting market value, or are you willing to take a little discount for speed and convenience? Lastly, don't be scared to go really, really low, right? Lower than you think you need to be to elicit a response from a seller. Remember, that is the stealth mismatch. Again, I talk a lot about in the No Limit Sales System. If you want to know more about that, go to nolimitsalessystem.com. Expect, number one, I didn't talk about this, but expect there to be friction. Okay. If you don't have friction, you are not negotiating low enough. Use the range technique. If it doesn't work the first time, try it one other time. That's 2. If it doesn't work the second time, don't do it. Okay. If it works once, keep doing it until it doesn't. Also ask them, if you don't sell to somebody like me, okay, what are your plans, right? What's your other alternative? That's a stealth mismatch. Okay. Don't be scared to walk away. And finally, if the seller ghosts you or they don't say anything, please, for the love of God, do not negotiate against yourself. Do not come down in price over a text if the seller does not give you an objection or ask for more money. Do not negotiate for yourself. Don't forget to download the script at nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. Get out there, negotiate big, fat, juicy, healthy wholesale deals. Your bank account will thank you. And best of all, you're going to put a huge smile on my face. I will talk to you on the next episode.